Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Shaft podcast. There are a lot of the times when you guys speak to various issues within debate, and I know this we are going to talk about is one that several people have yapped about in several ways through several media, but I'm going to have a much more constructive conversation. A lot of the time, call out the hypocrisy within the space, and I'm sure you should be comfortable with it. If your egos are bruised, sorry about that, but they are necessary conversations that we have to have. So today we'll be talking about women in debate, the space, how it helps them, brings them down. What are the negatives, positives? What can we do as individuals within the debate space to empower women? Um, and here with me is Wessy Zempare, who is an ESL Worlds finalist in Madrid, currently PADC Chief Adjudicator for 2024, and one of the best female debaters the African continent has produced so far. Wesley, welcome to this episode of the Shaft podcast.
Hi, Andy. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I'm super hyped up to be here. And just a disclaimer, if I say something that
Yeah.
offends, especially if we get to a part that I have to shaft people because we're on the shaft podcast, guys, please forgive me ahead of time. Like, win or lose, debate is debate. We move on. Life goes on. But thank you for having
Yeah.
me.
Um, if it were up to me, guys, pick grudges when you can. Except I'm the one who says the stuff. Anything I say, like it's host privileges. Anything other people say, you can pick grudges when you can. But I mean, this topic, I want to start with probably a rather controversial question. Um, there are a lot of debaters in their speeches and in politically correct ways who will tell you empower women. Women empowerment is paramount. We've had feminism debates thousands of times. When you join a debate society, feminism is one of the most fundamental topics you are taught. Obviously, with the goal and aim that, in as much as you are learning to win a debate, you equally get to change your individual behaviors, your core values as a person, and get to adapt your lifestyle and your actions towards women empowerment and recognizing the struggles of women. My first question to you is: have debaters been hypocrites since you've joined the space?
To women,
Have they been hypocrites when it comes to issues of women, women empowerment,
yeah,
feminism?
yeah. I just have
Why?
to ask from closing, just to be clear. But my answer is both yes and no. Yes, in the sense that
Okay.
since I joined debate, I have seen very dedicated attempts towards making women the focus, towards empowering women, towards specifically sometimes even just training women.
Yeah.
Also, they have been hypocrites in the sense that maybe it will come up more specifically in the discussion, but I feel like some people are still very internally prejudiced against women because I go to certain
Okay.
tournaments, I listen to certain speeches in some rooms.
Yeah.
Um, Tabs come out later, and you're like, okay, the female partnerships, good speaks. Male female partnership where
Yeah.
you can clearly see the female hooks the male behind. You end up, and then the speaker score is like 78 for the male and like 76 for the female. And it's quite interesting to see because I'm like, okay, you guys are training us, you guys are doing so much for us. Some people are even like
Yeah.
paying regular fees for women to attend these competitions. They attend these competitions, and these are the kind of speaker scores they are getting, and it doesn't make any sense. But the third leg being women would women sometimes as well is also another thing because sometimes the women, and I'm sorry if I hurt you because I'm also a woman, forgive me. But I've been hurt because there are sometimes you'd see the effort and you'd see zero participation. So I'm starting off on a soft ground.
Yeah.
My answer is both yes and no. They have been the hypocrites, but they have helped us to some extent.
Let me rephrase this into a much tougher question for you. Have male debaters been hypocrites?
Hmm. I see you just want to put me on the spot from the very beginning. That's cool.
Yeah.
Male debaters. But my answer still applies. Some of these things that are helping women sometimes come from male debaters. But let me
Okay.
also say, so in terms of percentages, I think male debaters have been hypocrites on a larger scale rather than on
Okay.
them not being hypocrites on a larger scale. So the idea is when it comes to them not being hypocrites, you'd hear a lot of, oh yeah, I'm going to partner a woman because I'm going to help her out.
Yeah.
And then you'd also hear, oh, let's support women competitions. Let's go judge for them. Let's go let's support them. Let's push the women. Let's train them. But then 90% of the
Yeah.
time anyways, either the woman ends up being the one who was carried, or she ends up being
Yeah.
someone who was romantic. There was some form of a romantic interest from which the male was supposed to benefit from. And I'm saying
Oh.
this without
Okay.
mentioning names. Redeem me, I did not mention your name. So if you feel hurt, you know what you did.
Uh,
But
guys, read meanings, please.
I'm sure some people would listen to this and be like, I know who she's talking about. If you know, good for you. But and then
Okay.
finally, there's also the perception that a lot of males I have come across, let me not say a lot, a number of the males I have come across sometimes speak
Yeah.
to female judges, female speakers, female
Yeah.
chief adjudicators in a particular tone that they do not pick with male counterparts.
Yeah.
So you would see
Yeah.
a male judge approach a male judge and be like, bro. And sometimes when you confront them, it's like, oh, we're bros. It's a man to man thing. I'm like, you can have
Yeah.
your man to man thing, but you don't need to talk down or talk condescendingly to a female judge simply because she's a female
Yeah.
judge. And it happens and it's quite unnerving. I remember there were times when I spoke in certain competitions. Tap comes out. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, was this because I'm female? Because in this particular round, even my partner admits that
Yeah.
I had the better speech. But then I can't
Okay.
completely blame judges because when you look at it sometimes, it's also because maybe I was a second speaker, or maybe I was the first speaker with the gaps, and my partner was the second speaker with the filling the loopholes, cement, and whatnot. So it's been
Yeah.
quite interesting to witness some of these things. And most recent one I must mention because this issue still gives me sleepless nights, and I'm sure it gives quite a number of
Yeah.
people trauma, is the whole fiasco with PADC 2023 Togo. And I physically watched people, conveners, talk to CAP members who were females, like
Yeah.
disrespectfully. But then when Lucian pops up, it's more or less like, but Lucian, this is the issue. And the
Oh.
whip is quite intense.
Interesting.
'Cause you're like, excuse me, where is the previous tone? But
Yeah.
it is what it is. It is what it is,
I mean,
unfortunately.
I had two follow up scenarios for you. And the
Mm-hmm,
first one, I think you've hinted about it already because
mm-hmm,
I interviewed Nolu
mm-hmm.
about the PADC happenings, and she quite clearly illustrated that even not between convener cap like you are describing, but between the participants and cap, participants somehow found the courage and boldness, especially male participants, to speak down on female CAPs, including herself, with all her experience and being world's DCA and clout and legendary status within African debate, would gather the courage, quote unquote, male nobodies would gather the courage and speak down on her when she's on cap and is not responsible for how bad things are going. But then
Exactly.
when they see Lucien around, who is clearly convener, clearly responsible for the issues, even to the point when they knew who to blame, would see him and smile at him and keep quiet and walk past, wait for him to not be available, and start making noise about issues to Nolutando and other female CAP members. And looking back on those issues, it makes me question: is it us allowing stereotypes to creep into the debate space, and is it that it is within these situations that people's true nature and characteristics come out, as opposed to the everyday politically correct women empowerment messaging that we hear within people's speeches? And for me, that's much more alarming, right? But let me throw a follow up question to this. In 2019 Hogwarts final, there was a motion about females who are gatekeepers within the patriarchal system, right? And it was the example used typically were queen mothers, right? Whether or not queen mothers and females who are gatekeepers were victims of the system or were perpetuators of patriarchy, right? And just with the discussion or with the contribution you gave, it was more like even there are some females who take part in actions, maybe not consciously or unconsciously, I can't tell, but essentially end up undermining the contributions of female speakers within partnerships, within hybrid partnerships, compared to how they treat male speeches, right? And do you think these women are gatekeepers? Do you think they are victims of societal pressures, stereotypes, the system of unfairness and unjustly treating female debaters? Or do you think they are active perpetrators of unfair treatment of women? And how would you approach these people? Because, for instance, the conflict within those situations is: do we call them out because they are perpetrators? Or do we sympathize with them because they are victims of a system that's unfairly treating women?
Yeah, so honestly, I think we call them out. Let me just answer that question first. Because
Yeah.
as let me just chip in the story while I brood on that answer is when I joined debates in my first
Yeah.
2 years, I think I partnered females only for like my first 2 years.
Okay.
And one, the reception that you get, because there are women who have been victims of the system, but have been extremely exceptional at boosting women simply because they were the victims. They actively avoided being
Okay.
perpetrators. And to be honest, I need to mention some of these. So, like,
Okay.
let me start with the people I know from my society. Adepa
Yeah.
would look out for the girls that were going well, that were doing well, and make sure that you kept your books together. Make sure that you were doing well together.
Okay.
But then there were also
Yeah.
other female speakers who just avoided us like a plague. I don't know if it was to pander to the male gaze, pander to the male debaters, for whatever reason it was. To some extent, it was
Yeah.
like, yeah, these girls are just something altogether. And to be fair, I don't know where they are in the debate space currently, humble brag, but at least at the end of the day, it points
Comment
out
reserved.
you can be a victim, but you can also be someone that solves the problem that made you a victim. You being a victim is not
Yeah.
an excuse to also equally be a perpetrator of the issues that fundamentally affect the system.
But
However, mhm,
this is not to defend them, though. This is not to defend them. But usually, the claim is that these people who are victimized in a way that is imperceptible to they themselves, right? So maybe to them, they are acting to think clearly, I'm unconvinced by this speech. But the reason why they are unconvinced is probably because they are exposed to much more aggressive styles of speaking that deem to say the more aggression or the more shouting or the more physicality, the more persuasion, the more persuasive those speeches are, therefore the higher the speaks. And if
mhm,
there's a female who doesn't force themselves or who is not within that character, they do not get to get those benefits. And this is not even just to females. I know a male speaker, but that's the number proportionally. Obviously, females are more within that number. I know one
yeah,
male speaker who constantly suffers that because they are much more calm within the way they speak, right?
yeah.
And so I don't know whether this victimhood is perceptible to them in a way in which we should fault them for it.
Yeah, that makes sense, honestly. But I think that also falls back to the kind of exposure they are getting or that they are willing to get. Because
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure after you you paneled around and you put someone first simply because they were aggressive and your judges give you
yeah,
terrible feedback in like five successive tournaments, the judges give you terrible feedback. You don't break. You go asking for feedback from the
yeah,
judges, from CAP. You get your feedback back, and you're like, okay, there is an issue. It's fine to
yeah,
recognize that there could be an issue, but it's even better to be able to be adaptable to the different styles that exist. Because to be very honest, when you
yeah.
mentioned the one male speaker, I was thinking about someone like Fatal. Fatal is a very gentle speaker.
Ah,
I have almost,
yeah,
I mean, I have seen him once or twice become aggressive in his speaking, but
yeah,
you'd recognize that he's one of the speakers that are on the less popular side, but it's actually a very
yeah,
fascinating speaker to listen to, simply because he's not
yeah,
super aggressive out there, he's not too in your face and whatnot. And
yeah,
I can't fault you for not knowing that it is wrong to somehow subconsciously place Fatal third simply because of the way he speaks, and then place someone else first because they spoke more aggressive. But the onus still
yeah,
falls on you because at the end of the day, it still makes you a better judge. You are judging more competitions. You are being more
yeah,
diverse with the kind of perceptions that you're getting. You are being more diverse again with the kind of training, the kind of advice from different places. I was recently doing a
yeah,
judge training, like I was judging a round for a friend, and I
yeah,
remember they asked me how can I be a better judge, and I the very end of my tips, I was like, never forget to ask very good chairs, especially when you get an opportunity to judge with them for feedback. Because
yeah,
I would never forget the day I judged with XK, and I was like,
yeah,
I just think I am doing something wrong. I'm a good judge, yes, but there's still something wrong. And she said, well, whenever I ask you to explain your stance, you go around the issue. You're never quite direct. And it, yes,
yeah,
we recognize that you have the idea, but the way in which you say it is not clear. I remember that day I waited for her
yeah,
to give oral education. I just listened to her and I was like, oh, so this is the difference. If I hadn't had the experience
yeah,
of judging international competitions, meeting people with different perspectives, meeting people who see things differently, I may have stuck with my circuits who at that point in time maybe did not even realize that was a problem. Because I came back to my circuit and
yeah,
realized everybody else was doing what I was doing wrong, but
yeah,
I was now
exactly,
seeing that differently.
exactly.
And that's the little steps we can go ahead to fix because they are all extremely important. Beyond giving you like a look
Yeah.
more judge CV credentials, like they are truly important to resolving those subconscious biases.
I mean, not to deviate so much from what we are talking about. So let's get back to women within debate.
Hmm.
Generally, are women in society found unpersuasive?
Hmm.
Do you think women in society are found unpersuasive? Therefore, when it comes to debate, those subconscious biases still exist.
Yeah, and my reason is I feel like other narratives, and pardon my debate language, other narratives like women are so emotional, they are so
Yeah,
like they are easily sensationalized and whatnot are
yeah,
things that severely affect women's persuasiveness. I remember GUDC, and pardon me if this is a call out. I don't mean it as a call out, please. I'm just using it.
call out, please call out.
I remember, I think the last GDC I spoke at, I think that was
Yeah,
2022 or 2021. I'm
yeah.
not sure. It was
I think
around where,
2022.
yes, 22, yes,
Yeah,
exactly. It was around where Michael Lampa was, I think, OO and we were CG. It was a
yeah,
diagonal. And my partner was
yeah,
Marco. And in
yeah,
GUDC, all those who have seen any of my videos, I was hot-headed. I was, I was loud. And I remember after the round, Michael Lamba
yeah,
comes to me. He's like, yeah, he doesn't think we should have won the round, or he feels like it was just like slight something that really, something minimal on which the judges made us win.
yeah,
And then he said something specific. He said, if I was in closing or if I spoke after you, I would have just made you more emotional because why are you being emotional in your speech? And that thing hits me because it was like,
Oh,
I'm going to like just rile you up because yeah, women do that thing. Mind
okay.
you, my partner spoke with the same energy that I did. I'm not sure why that comment came about. Maybe eventually, maybe
Yeah,
I should have asked, but I didn't because I can be quite
yeah,
non-confrontational. But then beyond that, I also had in I think level 100, one of my trainers almost had
yeah,
a quite similar comments that yeah, you people just thought you were saying something, but none of that. There's a way you could have constructively said that, but the way you put it in
yeah,
makes it look like simply because of the way I was speaking, you just didn't listen to what I said. Because there's nothing
yeah,
constructive about telling me, why are you so emotional? I'm sorry, what about the
yeah,
case? And that's quite difficult to beat as a woman who speaks aggressively. For women who speak gently,
yeah,
then the conversation is, oh, she's being boring. She's not being
yeah,
active. She's asleep during the debate. I'm sorry, what exactly do you want us to do in the debate? When we are quiet, we are
yeah.
boring.
That's the question I was about to ask. Because what should women do then?
I think
And and
what I
and
started to do is I
not
start my debate
to
like, oh, sorry.
yeah, not to change the narrative, but for me, if you think about this, is very similar to how we feel when the same conversation is had on the race factor. That
Mm-hmm.
black people are considered emotional, black people are considered boring to listen to, right? If we are being passionate, then we are being emotional, then we are not being logical. It's easy to ignore, or we shout when we speak. And
Yeah.
for everybody who is out there, for me, the way in which I view this is I can't feel it from a female's perspective when it's happening to you guys, but I can definitely feel the race one because I've been in several spaces enough to know how it feels when you feel like you are being undermined specifically because of an element of your identity. And it's so annoying and it's so painful because I've called out several competitions in Discord, on the platforms. I've backed out of competitions because of that. I've threatened CAPs because of that. I've called out a debate organization on Facebook publicly because of how racist they treated me and other Africans who applied for a position. And I've done it countless times because it's so painful and annoying to know that people decrease your entire intelligence and evaluate it based on an element of your identity. And
Mm-hmm.
that's similarly how I try to imagine how women feel because I've always said if a statement is ambiguously racist, it is racist. Borderline, that's it. Call the person out on it. Don't make excuses for that person. And I'll translate that same thing to women and patriarchal statements. If a statement is ambiguously patriarchal, it is patriarchal. Call the person out of it because microaggression is not when the person holds a placard and says, I'm a patriarch. It's when the person makes statements that you, the victim, feels victimized, but they somehow, some way don't get to recognize that they are victimizing you, and you should be able to call them out for it.
Yeah, that's
And
very
I
true.
think these statements that you are talking about really speak to those situations as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I'm just going to ask a little bit about you, your debate experience. How has the debate space treated you since you joined? Did you find certain things interesting, certain painful experiences? Um, and looking back, maybe 2, 3 years down the line to you now within the debate space, do you think growing in the space has gradually insulated you from certain experiences that young debaters, young female debaters, are subjected to, which are unhealthy?
Yeah, so like I previously said, I entered the debate space, and to be very honest, I entered a
Yeah,
relatively healthy debate space. Not that it wasn't
yeah,
toxic, but that certain people made it their point to create a
yeah,
space that allowed me to grow. So, to be honest,
yeah,
in the beginning, I didn't have quite the direct aggression of me just being female and being undermined. It was more or less
yeah.
on the side of, yeah, you guys are new, you don't know much. It was more of the new factor than the female
Oh,
factor.
yeah. The
Right.
novice stuff.
Exactly, exactly. However, I think for UGDS in particular, after we
Yeah.
had women in debate being a whole branch, we had all women's competition. It was
Yeah.
quite enlightening to note that like these women who came before us were willing to put in so much, sweat their lives out just to make sure that
Yeah.
we were on the top of our game. And it was so intense that University of Ghana has debate meetings twice a week. Women in
Yeah.
University of Ghana Debate Society had meetings 4 times a week. If it wasn't a general meeting,
Wow.
your personal trainer was meeting you, she was calling you, she was looking for you. During pro arms, they were
Interesting.
prioritizing specifically speaking with females rather than speaking with anybody at all simply because they were a novice. And these things were
Yeah.
amazing to come and meet. Unfortunately, and let me be accountable to myself, is I also
Okay.
played a part in this, is that it gradually died out to a point where I think now it's almost non-existent for women in debate.
You should feel
We are
guilty
still,
for this.
I do,
You
like,
should
to
be
be honest,
guilted
I
for
do.
this constantly.
Andy, let's I the guilt now will continue later.
Oh, if you don't make
But
up for it, there should be guilt perpetually.
oh yes, we've tried to make up for it. We are trying to make up for it.
Tried. How hard
We've
are you trying?
hard enough, hard enough that we are seeing results.
Hard enough. So if
Yes.
I call
I don't
University of Ghana Debate Society
I don't
right now, there's a female wing that
know.
trains four times a day.
You
Because come to
guys.
think of it, this will probably be the best time since the society has a female president, right? The society has a
Mm-hmm.
female president now.
It
Yeah,
does.
so it falls down to see perfect opportunity. Because when was the last time UGDS had a female president? I think this
It's
probably the
2 years
first
ago. No.
two
We've
year
had
3 years
female
ago.
presidents for a while. Maureen was a female president.
Oh yeah, Maureen was a female president.
Yeah, yeah.
So when Maureen was there, was this dead? Was this system of empowering female debaters,
So
was it
Maureen
dead?
was president in the online offline transition period. And to be
Okay, yeah.
honest,
So
it hit
that's an
University of
unfair
Ghana
system. That's
Debate
an unfair
Society.
period to characterize things.
Yeah, so I think
Yeah.
honestly
So
that's one of the main things that caused women in debates to die because it went dormant because there was a lot going on. And then
but a
by the
lot of debate
time,
activities went dormant.
yeah, unfortunately, the way in which
Yeah.
women in debate it required a lot of inputs that first off, the people who had the information and the people who were in charge, there was some
Yeah.
form of a disconnect. I don't want to go into the nitty
Okay.
gritty. That's why I'm trying to be as vague as possible. However, to answer the
Okay.
question, if you call the University of Ghana Debate Society, now I can't tell you people what we are doing, but we are cooking, and the females are catered for in that cooking.
For us, for me, the cooking, I don't mind until I see the aroma I say I see the
Don't
aroma.
worry,
God forgive me.
don't
Until I
worry.
smell the aroma and see the smoke and see the
You know,
product of the cooking served on a
the
plate.
aroma is so good, you will start to see aroma. Don't worry about it.
Okay. The fun part about podcasts is that they are always there for posterity. And
Of
I'll
course,
just wait. This is March, April 2024. I would wait for December 2024 and just pull you back gradually onto the podcast and ask you what you were cooking was the result of it. And I
we will
mean,
bring
the
you a
audience will be here to
buffet.
judge. So
A buffet.
yeah, I'll just look for receipts. That's all.
I think the only thing now is I feel like UGDS currently has had a shift of we feel like putting women that way had made them a bit secluded, had made them too comfortable.
Yeah,
So it we began to make it less of women, 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 but keep the women
yeah.
and force them to be up to standard to the same level the men were. Because in the
Okay.
period of us phasing out and the new crop coming in, or especially during my time,
Yeah.
I realized that you would want to do so much for the women, but there's no response whatsoever. A lot of them are comfortable. Like
Uh,
there's a quota system for University of Ghana, so regardless of what happens, there's going to be an all-female team. or there's going to be at least two female
Yeah.
slots. So a lot of people felt they could do the bare minimum and still somehow be
Yeah.
regarded as a good female, um, what's it called, a good female debater to a certain degree. Because note, of course, for
Yeah.
CAP tournaments, for invited judges, you note that recently there's always been some form of like a quota for always making sure there's some female representation. And so
Yeah. I
sometimes you
mean,
see
every competition is trying to do that.
exactly, and it's kind of made some people very comfortable. So we decided that you know what, we're going to
Yeah.
take that comfort from you, throw you in with the males. We would still give you some particular privileges, like if female, I specifically seek out some female debaters. I'm like, yo, let's get to work. You need to get this done. Whenever you need, you get caught up in
Yeah.
something, I'm here. And trying to always prioritize partnering these females, trying to always partner, like prioritizing sharing your knowledge, having them pick your brain is the other things that we
Yeah.
can do the step further. But going through the mill, everybody's going to go through it. And yeah, we're cooking. We're cooking.
I hope you guys are cooking properly because some people's meals are ready. Some people are also on the market buying the ingredients, and it's only in the womb of time that we'll see the dishes served and we'll
Don't worry,
pass judgment
chefs. Our
as to
chefs
whether it's too salty, too sugary, perfect to taste.
are.
In God we trust. Um, I mean, tell me about your experience in 2023 because I think 2023 was probably a defining year for you as a debater.
Hmm.
Being in PADC, breaking first in PADC, being in
Yeah,
PADC finals,
in the finals.
like matching the all-time best PADC points record, points tally.
Hmm.
Going to Madrid, breaking and being in the ESL final as well. In the final as the first Ghanaian team, one of the first Ghanaian teams. How do I even want to phrase it? One of two first Ghanaian teams to be in the grand final. And and obviously in all this, you were probably you were the only female, right? In the grand final, you were one of two females, but obviously you were the female in the team that broke first. Also, I think in the ESL final from Ghana, you are the only female as well.
Yeah.
And those are first of all on its own
Hmm.
world like outstanding achievements. Consider the fact that you have all the challenges we've been talking about the sort of undertone, undermining of female debaters, lack of appreciation for them, to get to do it within a space of what weeks in the manner and in the style in which it was done. Those are not feats that you reach by random chance, right? Recently I said that sure, maybe chance can get you somewhere, but when you stay there, it's not because of luck or chance. It's because you have proven that you can't stay there. And that's exactly what you did. You did it in Kenya, and I'm sure undertone people were like, oh, maybe they didn't deserve to break first. Oh, they got some rounds and they didn't
Hmm.
deserve to be in that final. I went to Madrid and said, yeah, hold my beer. Did it again. And that time around, if you come and say they didn't deserve it, and you're like you're starting to sound stupid, right? So so how was that experience for you? Did it get tough at some point in time? And looking back on it, do you think those were defining moments? Do you think you should have enjoyed it more? And what would you have changed within that period if you had to do it again?
Um, what I would have changed within that period was coming to terms with the fact that I'm good earlier, way, way earlier.
Okay,
So I think
okay,
it's funny I'm going to say this because at the beginning I said it's up to you to challenge your inner biases. And like you rightly
yeah,
said, sometimes you don't realize you think like that until you are face to face with some of these issues.
yeah,
I remember PADC, the I think it was after quarterfinals or after semifinals. I wept.
yeah.
I cried so bad because throughout the
I
competition I
nearly
had
said in
felt,
Jesus wept, but you are not Jesus, so let's move on.
amen. I reflect him. But it's fine. So I'm like, I cried
Yeah.
so bad because I realized that in the nine
Why?
rounds of the tournament, I had kept telling
Yeah.
myself, I'm not this good. What am I doing in top room? How am I topping the tab? And these were subconscious stuff.
Oh,
So in my
really?
head, I was like, Elisha
Interesting.
is just really good. Elisha is amazing. Elisha is carrying the team. After feedback, I'd go and they'd be like, yo, you
Yeah.
sold the case. Or during prep, I say an idea to Elisha, and that's exactly what he runs. And mind you, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
Elisha is just amazing. He's running the perfect case. I'm doing God knows what.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most self confrontational times ever. Because I remember
Yeah.
after that out round, I pulled my coach aside and I told my coach, I have I have borne with it. Like I've sat with all this emotion for 9 rounds for a couple of days and it has reached the
Yeah.
breaking point. I don't want you to tell my partner because if he freaks out, it's going to be a mess in I think it was quarterfinals. So it's going to be a mess in the semifinals. We need to be composed for the semifinals.
Yeah.
But I just need someone to vent
Says the
to.
person who was crying.
I yo,
You
we
need
had
to
to
be
do what we had to
composed.
do.
Says the person who was
Yeah,
crying.
so to my partner, I'm composed. You know, and worst case scenario, one person is
Mm,
actually composed. He's gonna his composure is going to affect me, and we're going to act as composed. We're going to take it to
the false sense of composure, but okay.
it works. So I remember
Okay.
later I went to my room and I
Yeah.
sat down and I said, you know what? We're actually not in the wrong place. We worked hard. Elisha and I's partnership was about 2 weeks or 1 week to the tournament. This is how far we've come.
Yeah.
This is how much work we've put in. Elisha will not let me sleep on the
Yeah.
flight because we had to be reading case materials because we had to make up for all the lost times since we didn't know we were going to be
Yeah.
partnered and all the changes
Yeah.
in speeches, all the changes in strategy, all those things we had to be abreast. So I sat there and said,
Yeah.
girl, you're doing this. Girl, you have to believe it. And that's when I started picking up the attitude of, you know what? I'm an it girl. I did all this. And it became an active decision to tell myself that, you know
Yeah.
what, give me my main character award. It's got to be about me. And those who have come across my blog know that that's the attitude I have on my blog now. I'm here to tell you it wasn't that easy to come by. Same thing in Madrid. We get to
The
Madrid,
less comments on the blog at this moment in time, the better
the
for
better.
this podcast. I'll talk about the blog down the line, but yeah, let's go on.
So eventually, we get to Madrid, and the question now is it's a new crop of people. Nobody knows you here.
Yeah.
Nobody believes
Yeah.
you. Nobody has even seen you before because for Elisha, he had
Yeah.
done, I think, LSE with Fatal and made it to like semifinals or finals. A number of people knew him. And it was obvious
Yeah.
because we get to the place, and Elisha is like, oh, I'm going to talk to this person. I've heard that these people are meeting up. I'm going to mingle with them and I'm like in the back.
See, to be honest, a lot of it is it's not even whether he's done the competition. Me, I've done God knows how many competitions. I still don't know a lot of them.
True.
Because I'm just terrible with names and faces, right? But there are some people who are really good with remembering people, and sometimes even if you've not met them in rounds, you know them on a tab that you
Mhm,
debated
mhm.
in the competition in and all that. So yeah, Elisha is just good at knowing people and going to them.
It helps
If
because
it
I
was
am the
me
opposite.
or maybe I think with Erasmus is similar because
Hmm.
for me, if you partner me, you think you know everybody because I don't know anyone. So
Hmm.
that's the bottom line of it. But
That makes two of
yeah, I
us.
think the transition from PADC to Madrid is really insane. Like generally from PADC to Worlds because I remember I have been PADC finalist twice. I've
Hmm.
broken comfortably in the PADC. I enter any PADC competition after 2018 and I feel like, yo, this should be a field
Okay.
day. Like, I should be fine.
Okay.
I went for Korea Worlds and it's the worst competition I've ever been to. Not in terms of organization, in terms of my own personal experience and performance. I've never felt a tournament as crashing as Korea Worlds. From round to round, it was hell. And you don't know anybody. and nobody knows you and nobody cares about you. You are not a topic of discussion because your name is not even on what? Out of the 800 people that are there, your name is not even part of the top 500. So just shift and let people move.
Mm-mm.
And so I get the anxiety at words. It can make you feel as if you are lost and you are out of place. So
Yeah.
yeah, but what happened? What did you
So
do at
we get to
words?
girls and we have quite an interesting experience. First off, we are sure that not a lot of people know us, and we are fine with that.
Yeah,
And then we're
yeah,
like, here's the plan for today. We need these many points. How we're going to get it is to rob the room of it at all costs. So we get into the round,
okay,
first round, third. We're like, okay, this is on us. Because I remember round one, we could have easily won the round, but we kind of messed up some way, somehow. I think we were opening a position,
yeah,
and we just left this huge chunk of gap for closing opposition to just come and take that and be like, here the debate is. And it became like a closing half debate,
yeah,
and we were third. And I was like, this is a bad start. Then we go into the next round, do a little bit better, and for some reason, we don't end up on a good end either. But then it picks up a little bit after that. And the interesting thing is, at Madrid, I something had changed. After I think it was probably after Kenya. At
yeah,
Madrid, I was like, you know what? We are here to win. The mentality was completely different. It didn't feel like, of course, it felt like you are in a complete crowd where people know people and then there's you. But then it didn't feel like I was
yeah,
hopeless. It didn't feel like I was just coming to just do rounds and go home. And I think it also had to do with what Elisha told me. He said, Wessy, we are spending thousands of dollars to come to this competition. A lot of people
yeah,
have tried to come to this competition, they didn't make it for various reasons. If there's one
yeah.
time we can make it or break it, this is it. This is our take it as our single opportunity for us to
So
get that far.
wait. In essence, Elisha used me to motivate you people. Okay, no
I
wahala.
mean, you're a great inspiration.
I would catch him once we
It's
are
not a
done with
bad
this recording.
inspiration,
I'm
though.
going to call him and ask him why he used me for motivation.
But yeah, it was that moment we said at all costs we're going to do everything.
Yeah,
And I gradually realized that my debate style changed because I don't know how many of my videos you've seen from Madrid, but my I realized my tone, the way I gave speeches was all different. I felt like a completely new person. It was a whole rebirth. Yo, it was fun. And I think at all points we had fun. Except I think round nine. That drama is something else altogether. But I felt like I had
what
grown
happened in round
significantly.
nine?
I felt sick and then couldn't focus throughout prep.
Oh,
And right in DLO speech, because we were closing government, in DLO speech, I turned to Elisha and I'm like, but Elisha, I think Op is arguing our case because isn't this what we're supposed to run? And Elisha freaked out and he was like, girl, you are the member of government and that is the off case. That is not our case. It was quite the experience, yo. And then he's like, you know what? Do you want me to member? I'm like, please do, because I would screw this up. He members, and after that, he doesn't talk to me because it looked like we had lost the round and we were not going to break. So up until after break announcements, Elisha didn't speak to me, didn't look at me, didn't want to be in the same space as me. And it
hey,
was funny. I mean, it's funny now, but it wasn't funny then. But eventually, I feel like
yeah.
we grew in terms of our dynamics, and personally as a female on that large stage, because after that I had so many females come to me and be like, you are such an inspiration, you've been amazing, I want to be like you. And honestly, every
Interesting.
single time a female comes to me and she's like, I've watched your videos, especially the high school kids, because I'm like, it's high school. In high
Yeah,
school I wasn't watching YouTube videos, so for someone to come up and be like, I've watched almost all your videos, I'm like, me?
yeah.
That's so cool. And it's nice to know that now every single thing I do positively influences one young girl out there, some young guys. I mean, but they're not the focus of today's conversation. But a young
Hey,
girl
hey,
out
hey,
there,
hey.
someone striving to do
Okay.
better. And then beyond that, I have
Okay.
come to meet other amazing ladies in the space. Talk of Joy, talk of
Yeah.
Davida, talk of Becky, amazing Nolu. And all these opportunities are because I grew and because these women have also been there to be sort of a support system, a backing system, and it's been a
Yeah.
beautiful experience since then.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because I look back on those two achievements and I'm like, I'm not sure I could match them because debate drains me a lot of the time. Like, if anybody has seen me at a pants or at a nationals, like usually the 2 weeks before, I'm mainly in like this wild mind space where I'm stressing myself really because
Mm-hmm.
I tend to be the person where my performance is dependent on how convinced I am that I've put in work. And so I need to convince myself that I've worked for it. Ultimately, I've drained every ounce of energy I have. And so when I'm in at a competition, especially for nationals, PADC, where I've had time to prep, I'm exhausted before the start of the competition. And I'm exhausted more and more every single step of the way. And it's tiring. And so when I'm done, I need like a break. So for you to tell me to go from PADC to Worlds, that's more like asking me to do twice of that. And it's literally going to be impossible. And just to give you context to it, when I was doing Belgrade Worlds online, it was 2 rounds a day. And after the second round, I couldn't even stay awake for OA to finish. Usually I'll doze off in the middle of OA and
Mm-hmm.
have to sleep for like 2 hours, and Erasmus would have to wait till I'm awake before we get to talk and discuss what happened in the day. And that's how draining it was. And I didn't do pants that year. So for me to move from pants to go and do welds, well, that's like really, really stressful a period for you to put up those exceptional performances. And the challenge for some of the best debaters we've seen in the world now because there are a lot of people who I personally I can brag and brag and brag all my life. I can never brag to be a world's finalist. I can probably brag to be a world's masters finalist, which is technically higher than all the other finals in the world. But
That's who.
today, let me put my egos aside. Says myself and Mace. If you guys disagree, please. If you guys disagree, go and find your own ladder and climb to the masters level. For now, that's the most important Worlds final in the world. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like on a more serious note, that's like really, really huge in terms of achievements. Let's get down into a little bit more trouble and controversies.
Mm-hmm.
I've come to hear that
Mm.
debate guys are trash. And a lot of the time, I've heard it from female debaters. Of course, I'm in the debate space, so and here let me give you a context. For me to
Look
hear
at men.
about it, please, for me to hear about it, right, tells you how far this narrative has come. Because I'm usually the person who is oblivious about things that are happening within the debate space, especially from a social point of view. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
these days I'm trying to poke my nose into social spaces a little bit and see what's happening. But like I've been in debate since 2018. That's what about 6 to 7 years now, and for almost the first 5 to 6 years of it, I didn't care. I see. I'll go to competitions. I don't go for socials. I don't know what's happening. A lot of the time, you'd hear, "Oh, these two people have dated and broken up." I said, "What? They are friends? They knew each other?" Because I never knew, right? I'm oblivious of a lot of these things, and
Mm-hmm.
so to know that debate guys are trash and to hear about it, something that have tarnished my own identity even before my appearance, even though I'm not a partaker in it. I just I just want to know, especially from your perspective,
Mm-hmm.
what what is the status of no, what's the status? What's your take on debate relationships and how bad are some of the stories that you've heard?
Mm. I hope this does not come back to bite me later.
No, we will
But
come back to bite you because there's a follow-up question in my head that I unfortunately for you, you can't know to know how to structure your answer. So just go
okay,
ahead.
okay. So let me just start from when I joined the debate society. When I joined the debate
Yeah.
society, I once Elisha recently or some time ago was like, when you join the debate society, I would look at this girl and be like, "Quote, sorry for those who don't speak Chi. Now also for my maybe in
Yeah.
Solono," which was an indication of apparently how I used to dress when I showed up at competitions. I'm
Hey.
sorry, I
Okay.
didn't know people were decided to dress up. I would come in my regular clothes, and by the way, as at level
Yeah.
100, my grandmother and my mother were still shopping for me because I was still such a baby. So obviously, my clothes were off the hook, classy, but
Interesting.
what they did the job. That's all that
Mm,
mattered.
church
But I
elder.
remember, let it go. So I remember,
Wait, is it church elder or pastor's wife? Which degree were you dressing to? Because just to give people a fair idea,
have you seen
or
some of the
it was
pastor's
serious
wives?
church member.
Mia was leader of the women's ministry in Meko Hinma.
Okay,
Hey,
continue. Sure, you wore
so
three piece.
I'm not going to engage on that. But I remember
That's all the
when I
response the
started
audience needed.
doing
Yeah,
well. So
continue.
when I got to freshers semi-finals, pro am, we I think we were best. I was best
Yeah,
arm speaker. At the part, I was I think third best pro speaker. I remember, was it Elisha also? Someone walked up to me and said, "Now that you are doing well in the debate space, just watch.
yeah.
The men are going to come after you." And I kid you not, barely a week or month later, the DMs start flowing in. "Hi, I'm from the space. I saw your finals, or I've seen you debating, and I think you're spectacular." Thankfully for me, none of
Hmm.
them have approached me with "I want to train you," or because I think personally
Okay.
I was already good with the trainers aspect because I had people who were I had Adepa, I had Solomon, I had Jeremiah. All those people are not like
Yeah.
people that you can say I need extra training from you from. But it's
Okay.
quite interesting that they do that. And then I've also heard apparently some people only partner females that they have a romantic interest in. So whenever those people I see a
Hey.
female partnership, I have a raised eyebrow because I'm like, is it true? First of all, I ask myself, is it
Uh,
true? If I
uh,
then
who is that? Who are those?
I beg, I'm not going to name
Who
this
are
one.
those? Oh,
I'm not going to name this
like
one.
I mean,
Plausible
see on the
deniability.
shaft, on the shaft, right? On the shaft.
Mm-hmm.
Like sure, when I'm hosting, Erasmus is usually the unfair host because
Mm-hmm.
he would push you on every single button. Usually when I'm hosting, I would let a lot of things go and then I would look for one and push you on it. This is my one, right? Just just tell
I think you
who
should
are
create a
these people.
different one because the only
But
thing
if
I'm
I
going to
create it, then
say
what's the
is
point
this
of shafting?
person recently has been doing well. That's all I'm going to say. Whether the person is new and
Hey,
has been doing well, is old and has been doing well, that I'm not going to say.
uh, guys, in the comment section, please let's start cooking the list,
You
and
can guess who
and
it is.
and
I will
let's
probably
let's
like. I would like
no.
the comment that is most accurate.
Okay, let's do this. Let's put our data analytics to work. Sample debaters who are doing well. Check the statistics. Check those who are leading the trends, and then put
Mhm.
together the list.
Yeah, but
I mean,
debating can
the
be
detective
trash.
work that you can't do in your relationships, do it in this comment section, and let's put it to life, guys.
Healthy relationships don't need detective work. Okay. Anyways,
Comment reserved. They said debate boys are trash. I'm just pointing out
yes,
the fact that
and I
for
agree.
people who came to the conclusion that debate boys are trash,
Mhm.
probably they did some detective work. So let's
So what
continue.
happened was, and those of you who already know my ever best friend who I met through debates, Yolanda. I remember there was one time Yolanda sat me down and said, "There's this particular debate boy, And let me narrow it down for you guys. From UGDS, I came to meet whether he's an active participator or not. That is not the business.
Like,
But
what is the
apparently,
point of
he
juice
had
when you
a.
are dropping
I'm
like
dropping it
light
in
and
here. He
unsaturated
said,
juice? Oh,
I'm
blend the
teaching.
thing and put it in a bottle, brand it and sell it.
Mm-mm. I don't have FDA
What is all
license.
this? Continue. Okay, we'll
Anyway,
take the
this
ingredients like that.
gentleman, this gentleman had a whole ass
Yeah,
roster where when he sleeps with a girl, it's a check. He messes with the girl, it's
yeah,
a
but
check. And it was so bad.
you
This is
know,
not even the best of it. It was so bad that after that, he would sit and brag about it with the boys. And when he was moving to Yolanda in particular, I don't know for the other girls, but he would move to Yolanda and be telling her how, oh yeah, he slept with this girl and he slept with this girl. And majority of these girls were in the debate society. A majority. Either he met them at comps, some of them
you
he met them
know,
in the University of Ghana with the idea of, oh, I'm part of the debate society, so let me bring you in. And there was a little sprinkle something
yeah.
on the side. And it's interesting to know.
Usually, usually I hear these things and like some
Mm,
hey, the words are not coming. Usually I hear some of these things and I wonder whether like they really happen, right? What degree of, I don't want to say disrespect, but lack of self-respect would it take to go and do that? And like, especially for me to be within the male space of it or the male side of it and be like so oblivious about it or not hear them. And I wonder whether some of these stories are cooked up, like are the boys bragging out of vanity? And to
it's
think of them as
interesting.
true, like
I've heard the same
really,
person
really
like
scary sometimes.
I've heard the same person like kind of pass a particular comment after I walked past them at a competition and they were kind of like, oh, they've just come from a girls' room kind of thing. And I was like, oh, okay. So they are true.
Hey,
A number of them, they are very true. They are very true.
okay. I mean, back to
So
you.
sorry, before we continue, I think there's a point where I'm going to tell
Yeah.
the girl. Sometimes these things happen. Like debate relationships are not terrible. But if I'm taking
Really
a page, if I'm taking a page from Nolly's
interesting.
book, who I really admire, she
Yeah.
says, well, debatemen are trash. She would rather not date a debate man or debaters in the same space. And I might agree with that. Just know what you're going in for. Be be
Okay.
just know.
So in essence,
That's something
debate
that will
men
get
are
me in
walking
trouble.
red flags.
Yeah,
Yo.
we can
The
take
men
these
will be
things.
here to defend themselves. The men will be here to defend themselves. And I would make sure I host that episode because I'm going to probably probably put myself in trouble if I don't. But
Hmm.
yeah, back to you, your personal experiences with
Mm,
debate relationships. What has
mm,
it been like? Have you been in any debate relationships?
mm.
What would you
Can I
say?
please get it?
You plead the tenth. Answer the question. What faith? Answer the question. What has it
Please.
been like? Have you neared debate relationships and bailed out of it? Have the narratives influenced you?
Mm,
Comparing your experience within the space with
mm-hmm,
people, do you think
mm,
like the rumors about debate men being trash are true?
okay. Hmm. First off, I have neared a number, a small number of debate relationships.
A
The first
number.
one,
Why are you
a
narrowing down the
small
qualification to a small number? Because a number is
a
like
small
allow us
number.
to cook the number. Oh, because
I'm
this
not
one we could
going to
have
let you
cooked
guys blow it out of
like
proportion. No, I'm just saying
300 or 70 or
when they
150 because now
hold
you
on,
just said a
hold
small
on.
number.
Yo,
But in our defense, small is relative. So if the statistics show that the average number is 300, your small can be 75. So, guys, stay woke and take the statistics seriously.
A number less than five interest in debate men. And the
A
first
number
one,
less than five. Also,
yes.
now I can get you to state the specifics by deliberately misquoting you. That's
Mm.
interesting. Let's go on.
The first one, he wasn't really ready. And I said, okay,
Okay.
great. Then we cannot go in a relationship. We are friends. We are
Okay.
cool now.
Okay.
The
Okay.
second one, the rest, majority of them are just crushes. Like I see people and I'm like, oh, this person is really nice. I like the way they speak. Like
Yeah.
those admirations turn crushes type of situation. I would name a few, but I don't
Yeah.
want to put myself in trouble. I don't want to put them on the spot because I have never told any of them that.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I have told some, but a majority of them don't know that. Oh, I did have an interest in you at a point in time. And
Just publish
then,
the list so that we'll see.
what are you using that list for?
Oh, like I'm sure the audience will be interested. At least
Mm.
even those who you've had crashes on will be interested. And they would also know what made the crash fly away, whether it is because of debate
It's
men are
because they
trash
entered the
or what.
arena.
Let's continue.
I'm just kidding.
Oh no, let's continue. Mm, let's
Anyways,
continue.
it's been interesting because I think for me, knowing and
Yeah.
seeing very well how trash debate men can be, I usually don't. I think I don't see a lot of debate men at competitions anymore. So it's like everybody's at a competition. I'm looking at everybody. I'm not specifically looking at people. Once in a
Okay.
while, I'll see like one person and be like, okay, cool. But then in my interactions with them, because I know debate men can be trash, I keep an eye out. Like my brain is functioning at the back of that. Okay, this is a red flag. Then I decide if I want to paint the red flag green and go, or just throw it out the window. Yeah.
Okay. But let me ask you a question. Two questions actually. The first one, like, sure, there's a popular notion that men are trash.
Mhm.
There's a popular notion that debate men are trash.
Mhm.
Which category is trashier? Whether trashier is even a word.
Debate men. Debate men. Thank you so much for coming. So debate men.
Okay. Um, debate men will also say debate women will show you. So what do you say to that? What is your defense?
I don't have a defense because I say show them. When you get a debate man, show him Pepe. Show him Shege. I'm just kidding. Just be careful of debates, man.
Oh, usually the first words are the true ones. So we've noted. Like, guys, guys, stay woke
Oh,
and
but
take
for debate
notes.
women, I know a number of them are quite amazing. So, guys,
Guys,
when you get
please
a
note, like
debate,
these guys, she's a ringleader right here. She's a ringleader, so they listen to her. So when she said like they should show Pepe, all of the women ended the podcast there and went back to their lives. They didn't listen
no,
to the disclaimer afterwards. So please don't operate as if women heard the disclaimer. They didn't. Thank you very much. This public service announcement 101. But yeah, I mean, I've seen some genuinely. I've seen some actually amazing debate relationships as well.
absolutely.
There's a Jim and Ellie Blim who are currently married with a wonderful baby.
Wow.
Um, who are the rest actually? Actually, the statistics doesn't favor what I'm about to say. So let me focus
Oh,
on life and
I
continue
can
from
give
here.
you some.
But yes, who and who?
Are you sure you want me to state them? But like, but like, the
The question
one
you've asked already disqualifies whatever you want to say. So let's continue. Why? Let's move on with
okay,
life.
let's go.
Um, yeah. I mean, I've generally been skeptical about uh writing because I
Mm-hmm,
know when I put a pen to paper, not writing in general, but writing about personal experiences. Because I know when I put a pen to paper, like, and I write, a lot of people would be shocked, right, about whatever I'm writing about. I seem to be a very closed book most of the time, and so
mm-hmm,
putting things out there would be news to lots of people. But you started writing a blog, and of all the things debaters can write about, of all the useless things and and most popular and most complex and whatever. See, debaters are the ones I know can write as if they know everything in the world about politics, international relations, economics.
mm-hmm.
Just as they change identities and programs of study in debate rounds, a debater will walk up to you and say, "Panel, I am an econ student." Meanwhile, this guy clearly studies law. Hey, just because the judge doesn't know them. Like, fun fact, myself and Erasmus used to do this. So, but in our defense, it's because we had multiple backgrounds.
I'm very
So
glad you mentioned this because I
I
was about
studied
to call you
biology.
out. Mm-hmm.
I studied biology. Erasmus also studies. He studied by, I think, agric biotech in undergrad. So we pulled up in this zoo IV in the grand final, and we're like, "Look, guys. Unfortunately for you guys, we are biology experts. So let's just do this." And in another debate about cons, Erasmus actually did supply chains, and I think something management. I've forgotten. It's
Mm-hmm.
economics related. I, on the other hand,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a self-schooled economics expert. I've read several articles. I've gotten my professorial degree from Investopedia and
Investopedia.
Wikipedia,
Mm-hmm.
and economics YouTube videos. You can disagree, I don't care, but like, I know my economic stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so I pulled up in one debate and said, as students and masters of economics who are doing an MPhil in economic analysis, we know what we are talking about. And I mean, we went around and we got away with it because these were white judges who obviously didn't know the programs we were reading in school. And I felt bad about the lie. Obviously, Rasmus didn't feel bad about it because he's not technically not lying because he did something about economics, but obviously not an expert in the specific thing we're debating about. So,
Mm-hmm.
so we've pulled our way through those things, and debaters tend to do that a lot of the time. But you
Yeah.
choose to write, and you choose to write something about very personal experiences that I don't think lots of people decide to write about. So,
Mm-hmm.
what informed that decision to be super, super personal with your blog?
Two things. One, my life was gradually feeling like a soap opera. So the other
Okay,
thing came up. I said, maybe one day I would have to write an autobiography. I can't pull everything from memory. So why not write it
okay,
and put it up somewhere? But then again, I
but you
said
could
I
have
could
kept
have
it.
done this and exactly and kept it in my Google Drive. It
Yeah,
would be immortalized
yeah.
there. But then the motivation, honestly, to write it when it's just for you, it's barely there. It's barely existent.
Well,
And what's the use
okay.
of keeping the story until you're like 50 or 60 and you're writing an autobiography when I felt I could.
The shock factor.
I'm pretty sure nobody cares about what you did in high school when you're 50 and 60. Unless you were unless you are
Okay,
in some George's Ghana and you were gay. Then we would care. But you know, we don't there's I feel like the ability for people to learn comes from
yeah,
when it's in the go. I remember when I was done with high school and I came to uni and I
yeah,
realized that there was biological science as a degree and people could do biochemistry and have a
yeah,
larger option pool than they did for if they went straight to medical school. I said to myself,
Why are
so
you?
are
Why are
there no
you? Why are you explaining why you didn't choose biological sciences?
I did choose
Like,
biological science. I'm one of the few people that didn't want to do medicine and wanted to do biological science. So a biological science student
but
through
you
and through.
didn't do. Wait, you did biochem, right?
And in my school, it's under the School of Biological Sciences. So yeah.
So obviously it's under the School of Biological Sciences, but the program is not biological sciences.
No, but my degree says BSc in Biological Sciences with a major in biochemistry, cell and molecular
Now that
biology.
sounds like a fake description because
Let it go.
because what is this association to biological sciences
Let
when
it
true
go.
biological scientists like myself who schooled in Odumankuma Kwame Nkrumah's school, hmm,
Of
that
all
was set up
places.
for scientific and innovative purposes,
And yet
and
you
we
don't have
do
no.
pure biological sciences, and there's
Mm,
nothing about a major in and minor in and division in. It was purely biological science, true
maybe
and
it's because
true.
people
So
don't know what to do,
you,
but
I
it's
can
fine.
agree that you did the half version. So by association, you're a biological scientist,
It's
but by
fine.
blood, people like me are the biological scientists.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for people who are lost, people have a lot of explanations why the rest of us are not lost like
Yeah,
them. So
so
it's
you can
fine.
continue as an associate biological scientist. Yes.
I felt like if only someone had told me when I was in SHS, not even me, because I was fine. I was happy with the degree I got. But
Yeah.
there were about 60 people in my class, and there were about four science classes.
Yeah.
My class had the least people. The
Yeah.
other classes had like five. So on
Wow.
an average, we were 4 times 6, 24, 240 science students.
I always imagined how people attended schools with multiple classrooms for the same course. Because in my school,
Hmm.
the science students,
Hmm.
even the class were not full. So how are you having like four classes of science students?
Andy, what school was that?
Please, can we continue this conversation? You were saying something.
Oh, it happens in other schools. The ones that they pack us too many. That's what happens. Maybe you went to some bougie private school that they only accept like 15 science.
Usually if you're not part of the ordinary, you're on either extremes, either the very best
Hmm.
or the very worst. From my laughter, you can deduce it, but let's continue.
So I sat there and I was like, all the career days that we did in school, and we did about three of them while I was there. It was
Yeah,
medicine, law, even political science. They rarely showed up. But I
yeah,
I
I
sat
hated
down.
those things.
If only somebody had come to tell my mates that when you don't get medicine, you can do biochem and still do like the way law does a first degree, it would have helped a lot of them relieve their stress, worry less.
Exactly.
And it would even help a lot of them
Yeah,
realize that it's not medicine they want to do, but it's actually research about the human biological system, which
yeah,
then means that they belong in a different field altogether. And I felt
yeah,
like this information was only accessible by people that were very close to me. So level 100, level 200 being the ones who go back to SHS and say, guess what? It's not all about medicine.
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
the older people felt significantly detached. We're talking about people who have like 3 degrees under their belt from various branches. I'm not quite sure what career path they are pitching to me when they tell me that I did
yeah,
law, I did political science, and then I did economics or
yeah,
I did business. And it was quite confusing. And this was also part of the inspiration why I decided to write my blog now and publicize it. Because I was like,
yeah.
guys, this could be very familiar, but I don't want you to learn your lesson in about 20 years from now when I publish my autobiography. I want you to learn it
Oh,
now
okay,
when you
okay.
feel as I feel because we're similar in age, we're similar in interests, we're similar in experiences.
Yeah,
Shared suffering, shared suffering. And maybe I have a perspective on it you don't. And usually I do
yeah.
because I'm an amazing person, anyways. So I'm just using it to share my wonderful wisdom I mean, if you disagree, you can go ahead and say it. POI
Oh,
from
uh, no POI, please. Usually in such situations, we prefer to be very constructive with our submission so that we are not misinterpreted.
mm, wise
Yeah,
decision.
very.
But that was the idea. I was like,
Yeah,
beyond the fact that I want people to read my stories and be like, read my life stories and my experiences and be like, yo, that's actually what you're going
yeah,
through, and like find it funny. I also felt like it's high time most of us had things that we're going through similarly and realize that it's a common thing. But beyond
yeah,
it being common, you don't have to downplay it simply because it's common. It's fine for you
yeah.
to um trumpet it, to make it an exponential feeling, like channel it to the rest of the world.
Hmm.
And then maybe like you can chill and have fun with the rest of your life.
Like, I don't know, this is such a profound thing to say about the fact that something being common doesn't mean it should be downplayed. Because I've had several things on my mind, and a lot of the time the reason why I devalue it is because I think it's common. Like everybody should know this, or everybody should experience this. And
Hmm.
you talking about commonality not being a determinant of value is really intriguing as well. You have this way of writing where you tend to, and this is why I coughed when you said you are a nice person. Like this way of writing in which you
I was.
you tend to be blatant, not means your words in how violent you are, and violence not in the sense of physical violence, but verbal violence in descriptions and in the way in which you throw shots at people. Um, and for whoever has received those shots, I genuinely just want to know them and ask how you are doing because I just want to see how things went. Um, you've also tend to be very innovative. I don't know how to put it, but sort of conversationalist in your approach to writing. The
Hmm.
That's one thing I just want to ask you about. How did that come about? Because I know people tend to have unique writing styles. Yours tend to be less from I'm writing, you are reading, to I'm talking to you while you read, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I sort of get you involved in my thoughts, get you involved in my thinking process, even within that writing as well. What informed that decision? Because generally, when people want to write, they just want to write for you to read. How
Hmm.
did you come about what would be the perfect writing signature for you?
So before I even answer the question, guys, if there's no indication whatsoever that Andy is a fan of my blog, this is it. But so the reason why
There's
I write,
zero indication. For me, I just go where violence is. And that's
what
where I've been going to. That's all. I in my defense. I just follow the
that's
violence.
fine. That's
So
fine. We take it as we get it. So the reason I wrote like that is two things. One, because of the way I do my public speaking, it's a comfort way for me to
okay.
express my thoughts. So it's basically, honestly, if you read
Okay.
it, you realize that it makes you feel like you're listening to me do a public speaking speech at any competition. And if you listen to not the ones that I use
Yeah.
specifically for competitions, but my kids. I'm sorry, I'm calling you kids. You people are barely younger than me, but all the trainees I've had in public speaking, you would realize that the tone is quite similar to what I write. The reason for me, the other
Okay.
reason then is uniquely because of the way I think my thought process works. I'm more of a visual thinker and a visual learner.
Yeah.
So in my defense, my
Okay.
favorite subject was chemistry because I would draw the meaning of like, isotopes rather than write it. I would use symbols and stuff like that because that's how my
Oh.
brain processes a lot of things. And because of that, when I'm writing, it is very comfortable for me to then write in a way that you see it because that's how I see it when I'm writing. So basically, when I black out when I'm writing, in my head, I'm standing in a room full of people and I'm looking at them and I'm talking to them, which So one of the episodes, Friendship Compass, which has come to be one of the funniest episodes. I don't know if it's the funniest, but like you guys tell me, was how Yolanda immediately reads and she texts
It's
me.
the
She's
most
like,
violent one.
"Girl, come sit down, come sit down. How do you begin your blog? By telling people who don't have friends to raise their hand, then tell them to put it back down,
And get
grab
out.
their bags, and walk out." It's because while I'm writing that episode, in my head, you guys have all come to my blog, you've all taken a seat, you're all listening to me.
Yeah.
And to be honest, the first versions of that particular post actually had things like, yeah, spotlight back on me. So picturing that
Oh, okay.
asked
Yeah.
the audience something or I've said something off topic and then I'm calling the spotlight back on me. And then
Yeah.
the beginning of the same version also had, initially it had, "Oh my God, welcome guys. I'm so glad to see you here. Grab a seat, grab some water. It's going to be a chill episode." That kind of thing. Because that's how my brain
Yeah.
um thinks of these things. And honestly, it's easier to write than
Visualizes
me
these things.
because I talk a lot. So when I'm writing like I'm talking, it feels like I'm talking and makes it easier for me to write.
Okay.
Whenever I have to write something
Yeah.
in a writer's tone, like how you described it, it will take me days, years even, to finish writing it because it's
Yeah.
difficult. But if I'm talking, here we go, we're done. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, my post is up and we're ready to go. And it's fun, genuinely, it's really fun.
I mean, that's quite an interesting way to think about it because now it doesn't just tell me why you write the way you write, it also tell me how to read what you write. Right? Because now I would read it not just as a reader, but equally read it trying to understand what were you picturing or trying to form those images that you were trying to form when you were writing as well, which is
Mhm.
really, really fascinating. Interesting to see you write that way.
Thank you.
Okay. But I mean, yeah, just for disclaimer purposes, I don't go to the blog because I like it. I go it because I like the violence on the blog, and
Okay.
there are violent episodes there. I mean, I'm not a violent person. I'm a very peaceful person. I just follow where the issues are and try to understand them as well. But I think we'll be wrapping up soon. Just a few more questions, and then we can look at wrapping this up. PADC is coming up again in December. You experienced Togo, which was an absolutely horrible episode of PADC. Um, but I think in some ways it's good that some of you who were in Togo are CAs for the upcoming one in Uganda. What should
Mm-hmm.
we be looking out for? What are you excited about the most when it comes to Uganda PADC?
Mm-hmm.
And what should the African debate community be expecting?
Um, they should be expecting the best. And personally, I'm super excited to be
Yeah.
on CAP because, to be honest, most of you may not know, but Mashara trained me in judging. He was also the first person I judged with when I started judging with
Okay.
people outside my circuit. And I remember
Okay.
he in that round, I had a funny call. I didn't know what on earth happened in the debate. I was so confused. And I go like, "Oh, this is my ranking." And Washai goes like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
disagree. This is my ranking." And instantly I said, "I agree. Okay, let's go with your rankings." Mashara said, "Slow your roll. Slow your roll. First off, you're going to defend the rankings you initially had. Secondly,
Yeah.
we're going to learn how to not easily switch. Thirdly, we
Yeah.
are going to learn why you this gentleman had been amazing to me from the very beginning, and I
Yeah.
constantly look up to him. So working with him is like the pinnacle of excitement for me. I mean, eventually I could have another pinnacle, but for now, it's like one of the most beautiful things I've been looking forward to. Other than that, like guys, you people have seen the competitions Uganda has hosted, Olympia, they are doing Easters over the
Yeah.
weekend. You know that there's nothing but the best to expect. If there's one thing the team we have is good at, is making the experience worth it. And I'm looking forward to it. That being said, we all looked forward to Togo and Togo fell through. I pray and hope with all my heart, even though I truly trust that the team is together and the team has knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
I pray with
Yeah.
all the spiritual life I have and all the spiritual energy God has given me and everything that all His blessing upon my life. I pray with it that it is
Yeah.
a seamless and amazing experience. Because if there's one thing we all know is PADC, especially for the people who come there new, it's like
Yeah.
something to look up to every year. So every single time
Yeah.
I hope that when people come, especially when it's their first experience, it's not a regrettable experience, but it's an experience that makes them
Yeah.
say, next year I either want to be the one winning or I want to be the one on CA, and it gives them some aspiration to look up to. Because from PADC, the next big thing
Yeah.
is wealth, and it can really
Yeah.
set the tone for the future of a lot of debaters. So we're looking to make
Yeah.
sure that future and that foundation is very well cemented.
That's true. I mean, just to point out two things. Someone asked me just now, when you said you are praying with all the spiritual life left, and I was asking, are we sure there's a lot left? I was just asked, so for me, I'm passing it on. But also, but also for all the other CAs on Uganda bid, please take offense. Every CA on the bid aside Macharia take offense,
You know,
and I'm
one
promising
person
I'll
there,
take this part of the video.
they
I'll take
absolutely
this
love
part
you.
of the video. No, he's an afterthought. You see,
My defense, in my
please take
defense,
offense.
when I
Yeah.
think of Masharia, that's it's Masharia because Masharia knows how much he
Yes.
needs it.
So
But Mace has been an
yeah. So
angel.
everybody can take offense. It's fine.
Mace has been an angel as well.
Like
He's been fantastic.
everyone
So
else
I can't even
can take
take off.
offense. So no worries. Yeah, I mean it's been an amazing conversation with you, from women in debate to the concept of men are trash, which I let me move on, to various issues around your personal experiences with Madrid um, and Kenya, and to your blog. I think like I would put the link to your blog in the description of this episode. People can go read the violent stories I'm talking about, and you can come back and judge. Guys, like for me, I'm just giving you the opportunity. See, unlike Wessy, I've been the most upfront person relying on your thoughts about issues. I don't pass judgments. I just give you the information and decide on your own. So you can go and read and come back and come and tell me what you think, because I know and I believe that you come to the same conclusions I came to, that there is no peace anywhere on that blog. Um, yeah, any final thoughts you'd love to share with the audience?
Oh, first off, thank you for listening. If you listen to this far, that's amazing. That's super great of you, and we're glad to have you here. Secondly, Andy was just,
Yeah.
convincing you guys subtly that my blog is violent. It's the most chill, most loving, most peaceful place to be. So you're absolutely welcome to subscribe. And
Hmm.
of course, men are
Hmm.
trash, not my man, but my man is up for whoever is a man. And I've absolutely enjoyed being here. It's been fantastic. It's been wonderful.
Um,
Yeah,
one final question. Who
we
is
are
he?
wrapping it up. We are wrapping it up. We are wrapping it up.
Like people would chastise me if I don't ask about who is he? Who is he?
He's just he is as he is.
Hey,
I'm not dropping
now we are
names.
giving Jesus attributes to a man. He is as he is.
He is.
Okay.
He's not the. He is not the I am. He just is.
Comments reserved. Yeah, but thanks for hopping on to this episode. Thanks to everyone who listened. The shaft is obviously seeking to grow, so do well to subscribe. This episode, I would come back to share my comments on another episode, about how violent this episode has been to my male gender. Unfortunately, I was the perpetuator of it by hosting this episode, and I even drove it on. But guys, on the issue of women empowerment and creating a safe space for women, I think we should take it serious and do our best. Let's check ourselves and develop the right characters. But when it comes to the men are trash combo, we'll come back and have it and see how dubious the women are. Hopefully, the person who comes to sit would also be able to say, "Not my woman," but let's see how it goes. Um, uh, thank you very much, and see you on the next one.